In the year 1347, in a convent in Italy, Sister Fernanda was returning a runaway donkey to its stable. Sister Ginevra appeared with a surprised expression on her face. She asked about the donkey that always managed to escape, even though all the doors of the convent were tightly locked. However, instead of giving a clear answer, Sister Fernanda refused to provide an explanation and asked Sister Ginevra to stop asking so many questions. In the next scene, we are shown Sister Alessandra receiving a visit from her father. During their meeting, her father explains that the prospective groom for Alessandra demands a dowry that is beyond their family's financial means. This forces the cancellation of Alessandra's marriage. Alessandra, who has longed to leave the convent and live a normal life, feels disappointed and angry with her father. As the three sisters walked through the convent garden, they felt disturbed by the gaze and greetings of a friendly garden keeper. They attacked the keeper with vegetables and farming tools before giving him a stern warning to stop bothering them. Due to their eccentric nature, they became known as the Crazy Three Sisters. Meanwhile, inside the convent, Sister Maria and Priest Thomas were packing up the knitted fabrics made by the sisters to be sold in town. As Priest Thomas prepared to leave, he asked the garden keeper to watch over the monastery, considering there were no other men besides him. However, the garden keeper firmly refused, expressing that the nuns had gone too far by mocking and tormenting him. Not only that, but on that very day, the garden keeper resigned from his position. In the castle setting, King Bruno and Queen Francesca discussed financial issues and warfare during their evening meal. Queen Francesca harbored an attraction towards their male servant, Masetto, which eventually led to a forbidden relationship without King Bruno's knowledge. The revelation of the affair forced Masetto to flee into the forest. In the midst of his escape, Masetto encountered Priest Thomas, who offered him protection and employment as a gardener in the monastery. Before starting his duties, Priest Thomas warned Masetto to pretend to be mute and deaf in order to avoid any disturbance from the crazy nuns inhabiting the convent. In the courtyard of the convent, Masetto was attacked by the suspicious Fernanda and the inquisitive Alessandra, both seeking to determine his true identity. After it was explained that Masetto was a mute and deaf garden keeper, they accepted him. However, the atmosphere turned somber when Sister Maria revealed the loss of the knitted fabrics that Priest Thomas and Masetto had taken to town. Alessandra, saddened by the loss of her dowry, broke a frame of embroidery. She sought out Masetto to repair it, unaware that the two other nuns were observing her with suspicion. On the same evening, Alessandra was startled by the visit of Fernanda and Marta. They brought along alcoholic beverages to be enjoyed together in Alessandra's chamber. Shortly after, Ginevra joined in, and the four of them spent the night reveling and getting intoxicated. In their intoxicated state, Marta began discussing the pleasures of intimate relations with a man. She expressed pity for those who had not experienced it. Furthermore, Marta recounted a legend about women using belladonna plants to seduce any man they desired. Alessandra, driven by the influence of her conversation with Marta, impulsively kissed Masetto. She even attempted to engage in a more intimate encounter, but Masetto refused out of fear. Alessandra, content with their kiss and lying beside Masetto on the ground, felt joyful. Later, Alessandra encountered Ginevra and Fernanda, who were engaged in washing tasks. Fernanda was perplexed by the sight of Alessandra's dirty headscarf. Alessandra lied, claiming that she had been assisting Masetto in digging a trench. Since Alessandra had never washed before, Ginevra ultimately took it upon herself to clean the headscarf. In the forest, Fernanda and Marta searched for belladonna plants for their own purposes. They entered Masetto's hut and threatened to engage in inappropriate acts together. Masetto appeared pleased with the idea. As Marta instructed Fernanda to indulge Masetto with her mouth, she suddenly commanded Fernanda to stop and left Masetto alone in a state of despair. When Bishop Bartolomeo arrived at the convent, Priest Thomas and Sister Maria warmly welcomed him. Meanwhile, Masetto sneaked into Alessandra's chamber and they engaged in a passionate encounter. Suddenly, an elderly nun entered the room. Alessandra and Masetto were on the verge of being discovered, but instead the old nun began sewing fabric. Alessandra quickly tidied her attire and joined in the sewing. Masetto seized the opportunity to escape, shouting as he fled. That morning, Ginevra made a potion of belladonna and mixed it with her own blood. She applied it to her cheeks. Shortly after, Alessandra arrived to make sure Masetto was truly mute. However, Ginevra also came to Masetto's location. Alessandra panicked and hid. She saw Ginevra, who was intoxicated, kissing the sleeping Masetto. Fernanda arrived and made them hide. Alessandra and Ginevra looked at each other in astonishment. What was even more surprising, Fernanda threatened Masetto with a knife and took him away. They decided to follow Fernanda into the woods. Suddenly they saw a group of naked witches dancing around a bonfire. Masetto was tied to an altar, and Fernanda held a knife, seemingly about to do something dreadful. Alessandra tried to get Ginevra to be quiet, but because she was still intoxicated, Ginevra instead joined in the witches' dance. However, the witches realized that Ginevra was not one of them and started attacking her. In the midst of the chaos, Marta tried to calm Ginevra but was accidentally struck by Ginevra's held totem stick and instantly fainted. After the chaos in the forest, Ginevra fled naked on a donkey back to the monastery. She screamed to anyone she encountered that Fernanda was a witch. Bishop Bartolomeo, awakened by the commotion, emerged from his chamber and was startled to see Ginevra in her naked state. 2 other eccentric nuns also arrived, adding to the chaos. After the situation calmed down, Bishop Bartolomeo ordered an investigation. However, he received an even bigger surprise when he opened the door to Sister Maria's room. He discovered that Sister Maria was also involved in illicit acts with Father Thomas inside the room. As the bishop announced the sins of the nuns, all of them were forgiven except for Ginevra, who had to fast for a year. Father Thomas felt deeply ashamed and guilty, so he requested to be relieved of his position. The bishop agreed and sent him to become a monk in another church. Meanwhile, Masetto was being tried by Lord Bruno in the castle. Lord Bruno revealed that he had a new and superior wife compared to Francesca. He also thanked Masetto for proving that Francesca was a traitor. As punishment, Lord Bruno promised to keep Masetto alive, but would torment him every day until his death. The nuns, especially the 3 eccentric ones, grew concerned that Masetto would be killed. They devised a plan to free him from the castle's prison. After Lord Bruno departed, Masetto attempted to seek assistance from the guards to escape, but they refused and mocked him. However, their attention was diverted when 3 eccentric sisters appeared with wax-covered turtles on their backs. The guards were mesmerized and followed the turtles, allowing the sisters to stealthily enter the prison and liberate Masetto. Before they departed, they left a doll to conceal Masetto's escape and disguised themselves as nuns to deceive the guards. Afterward, they fled into the woods. Meanwhile, Sister Maria rode her donkey and ventured into the forest to meet Thomas. When they encountered each other, they embraced and confessed their feelings of love for one another. However, Sister Maria realized that the other nuns and Masetto were approaching them. In a hurried state, Father Thomas and Sister Maria found a hiding spot. Once the intruders departed, they were finally able to be alone. In an intimate moment, Father Thomas and Sister Maria shared a passionate kiss, and without hesitation they decided to escape together. Thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoy the movie.